Hi, I'm Ginny Rosenkrantz with the University of Maryland Extension. Well, after a long hot summer, we are finally into October. Oh, I love October. Bright blue skies, hardly any humidity usually, and perfect time to be out in the garden. There's a couple of chores you can do, and a lot of times you can just have fun. So join me for Delmarva Gardens coming up next right here on Pack 14. Well, I tell you, one of the neatest things about fall and October, it's the perfect time to plant pansies and mumps. Now, oh, and also violas, I should say that too. Pansies, way back when, used to be a plant that you would plant in the springtime. You'd wait until the weather got warm enough, the ground would be still cold, but you could go ahead and plant your pansies outside and they would survive. And it was just so nice to have spring come and you could go plant it and all of a sudden instant spring in your garden. Now, the neat thing about plant breeding is that they have come up with some varieties of pansies that are actually really good at being winter hardy. So you can take these, plant them in the fall. They will bloom all through the fall when it's nice weather. When the weather gets really cold, and when I say cold, like, you know, into the 30s, when it gets chilly and everybody has to have a coat and all that, they'll kind of hunker down. They won't be as big as this. They'll actually kind of almost shrink, and it looks like they're shrinking. And they won't bloom until you have a couple of warm days. And we often have a couple of warm days in January, February, and then starting in March. And at that point, we will go ahead and see the pansies and the violas come back and start to bloom like crazy in your spring garden. Now, I know that a lot of garden centers will sell pansies in the late springtime, and they'll be on sale. And if you have, like, say, a party going on, or you have some friends coming over and you want to sort of spark up your garden a little bit, buy them at half price and plant them. But keep in mind that come June, they're pretty much on the way out. And you would want to go ahead and rip them out. It's hard to do, compost them, but then you'll have room to plant your summer flowers. But right now with fall, let me introduce you to my friends, the violas and the pansies and the mumps. This is a viola. And the neat thing about violas is they have a lot more flowers, but the flowers are very tiny. They are also one of the things that you have to keep in mind, that these will seed themselves very freely. So once you have violas in your garden, you might have violas in your garden forever. One of the ways you want to keep them blooming is when they're starting to look like they're almost done. This one looks like it's almost done. And this one over here is done. Notice how it's just, the petals have all folded up. That's when you want to go ahead and pinch them off. So by pinching them off and removing the spent flowers, like this one right here, there we go, and even this one right here, you're taking the seeds away from the plant. And the plant will say, wow, I don't have to make seeds with that one. I'm going to have more flowers so I can make more seeds. Because annuals, their entire purpose in life is to grow, get the roots established, get the foliage established, get those flowers blooming as quickly as possible so they can throw out a whole bunch of seeds. And every time you cut off the flowers of annuals, the plant will go, well, darn it, now I have to make more flowers, and then there's more flowers because they want to go to seed. And as soon as you stop doing that and letting them go to seed, they feel that they have done their job, and then they kind of take a break from flowering. That's not what you want. You want to go ahead and keep them pinched a little bit. So that's kind of a suggestion of how many flowers you really want to plant. But they're just so beautiful. Some of them look okay in containers. Most of these do better in the ground. But they're fun. Here's a viola that's yellow. Here's one that's pure white. And here's one that's a dark purple. And look at all these gorgeous colors. The purple one's got hints of blue in it. And the white is just pristine. So you can go ahead and play with these colors. You can put the purple and the yellow together for a real wow, because they're the opposite side of the color wheel. You could add white to it to kind of break it up and to give a little bit of space between the colors, just so that in case you think that they could clash, they won't clash that way. The difference between pansies and violas is pansies are, or I should say have, whoops, let me go get this, larger flowers. So this one right here, see the difference in the flower sizes? These are a good 3 times larger, maybe 4 times larger. Aren't they pretty? Also, the neat thing about pansies is you can have a pansy like this that has what they call a blotch in the face. So you have a real dark purple center, and then you have the little yellow it's actually where the stamens are. And there's a little bit of a fuzz there, but it looks like a little smile. And then you have the little petals up here. So it almost looks like a little face to me. So you can have the ones that are splotched like that, or you can have one like this bright yellow one that is completely clear. So one single color. And you can go ahead and, again, plant these together or plant them separately to get the different color combinations. I like this particular type right here with all the different colors because you can add purples with this, you could add reds with this, you can even add whites with this, but you could add yellows with this too because the yellow gets picked up with that center little bright yellow dot. With the blues, I have some blues here that are a soft blue. Once again, this one needs to be pinched off. I'll go ahead and get that one off because that one's just about gone. And then you have this one right here. Notice how this one has a little bit of white on it. So sometimes you'll have a color break like that. But I can go ahead and plant those with these dark purple ones. And once again, pinching off the old ones. But if you put these two together, you have a really nice combination. So you can have them side by side or intermixed, and it'll give you a wonderful two-tone color, which is absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, they're going to bloom for many, many weeks. Annuals will bloom for weeks and weeks and weeks. Perennials have a very shorter period of time. Now, when you're going to plant these, you want to make sure that you have them in a full sun location. They need to have full sun. They need to have good drainage. They don't like to sit in the water. If they're sitting in water, they will actually get root rot, and that's not what you want. When you plant them, the best thing to do is take them out of the pot and take a look at the roots. Now here you can see on this side not too many roots, but if I turn it around, look at those gorgeous white roots. Aren't they beautiful? So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and break some of those roots up a little bit just by pinching them like that. These don't have a lot of huge roots, so you don't want to take them too much. And then you want to go ahead and plant them so that they are planted exactly the same height as they are here. So plant them right up to there. You can go ahead and add a little bit of mulch, but you don't want to put mulch directly on the plant because, again, that will basically kill the plant. So it's pretty easy in that sense. I love these things, and they smell so good. Now, the other thing that's really kind of fun to plant around this time of year is the fall mums. Fall mums, they kind of go together, don't they? Chrysanthemums are a perennial, so that if you plant them right about now, right after you pick them out of the garden center and put them in a garden, once again, they need full sun, they need good rich soil, just like the pansies do, and they need to have well-drained soils. You don't want them to sit there in water because then they'll develop root rot. But the neat thing about the difference between mums and pansies is that the mums will bloom for 2 to 4 weeks. And then they're done. They're said, okay, I've done my thing. They're perennials, but they will come back next springtime. So how do you get that to happen? Well, first of all, let me go ahead and talk about the different types of mums. This one right here is a white mum. The best part about this is in perfect full bloom. This one I would buy if I was going to have some friends over or a party and I wanted to have a real splash, a real beautiful presentation right now, right this weekend. The trouble with something like this in full bloom is that you have to think about, as soon as you've had your party, to plant it out as soon as you can, because it is in full bloom, it's getting ready to rest, which means that the roots are thinking, well, I've kind of done my job. And you want to make sure that you plant it while you still can. Let me show you a different one right here. This is what I would go ahead and purchase for the long haul. Notice how all of these right here are buds. The buds are so tight you can barely see what color it is. And I always like to choose one where it has just one flower, beautifully open. So this one will give you an idea that you're going to have this gorgeous maroon color flower with this bright yellow center. This one you can go ahead and plan for an event, like maybe next week or the week after. And you can go ahead and put it in a container if you wanted to, knowing that later on you can go ahead and plant it in the garden. But this one I could go ahead and keep, because it's the color that I want. I can keep it for a couple of days or so, and it will come out and be beautifully in bloom. They have, mums come up in so many colors. I showed you the white, and this is a beautiful red with a yellow center. Here's a red that is just basically a dark red. Look how the center is almost black. Isn't that gorgeous? And the petals are a beautiful red maroon color. So this is one of the beautiful fall colors you can get mums in. It's just so lovely. And you plant something like this with the other red, and they will look beautiful together. Isn't that gorgeous? The other kinds of colors you can get, oh, there's so many. But I've also picked out a purple one. And this is almost a pinky purple, which is real, real nice. And once again, you have that tight button of the same color petals, and then the bright petals on the outside. So that's lovely. And that will go beautifully with the bright yellow one over here. I'm getting my stretching exercises done today. All right, isn't that gorgeous? I just love the color. They have this in yellow, they have them in gold, they have them in there's so many different varieties too. I'm not even going to share varieties because every garden center chooses the ones that they like to buy, sometimes because they know that they hold up really well too. And this is absolutely beautiful. Now this one's got a lot of blooms, but see there's a whole bunch of buds that are still so tightly closed that there's nothing, no color showing at all. So you know that you're going to have a long period of bloom. And that's another reason why people do love mums, because they'll start to bloom and then they'll get into full bloom, and then you still have a bunch of these really, really tiny, tight buds that will continue to bloom. So when I say 3 to 4 weeks, mums can give that to you, which is wonderful. So you can start in October or even in September and have flower color September and October, October into November. And these will bloom beautifully until the first hard frost, which is so cool. I absolutely love that. Now, when you're choosing to plant these, one of the things that you have to realize is care of the plant. So let me go ahead and grab this one and pop this out. There we go. Now this one has really good roots on the bottom. See how those roots have been going round and around? It's a really nice mat of roots, just like that. And there's a whole bunch of roots also. They're hard to see because they're tan and brown, but they're still really good roots. When you go ahead and break these open, depending on how root bound it is, you can just take a knife. The other thing you can use is, hold a second, fun tools. There we go. One of these, what they call it, like a fork, and you can just rake it down like that in a couple of different places. And what you're doing is, again, you're just breaking up some of the roots. Let me see if I can do that in the sunlight for you guys. You're just breaking up some of the roots, just like we did with the pansies. But what that does is that forces the plant, or I should say it encourages the plant to say, oh, I don't have to stay in this little root ball thing. I can go ahead and start growing in the garden soil, which is really what you wanted to do. Now, a lot of people have said to me, wow, I've planted pansies, mums, and they just don't come back. What am I doing wrong? Again, you have to choose the time. When they're in bloom like this or full bloom like that, you need to plant them in the garden as soon as possible. Lots of times people, and I'm guilty of it too, I will buy them and I'll put them in pretty containers so that they look really beautiful in my entryway. At that point, I'm looking at them and treating them as if they were annuals. And that's perfectly okay, because they will be beautiful annuals for quite a while. And they will give color and texture and very much of a fragrance too, which is not bad at all, to your entryway or to your garden, that you can go ahead and have it like that in containers. But they're not going to survive over the winter in containers. And if you wait until they turn brown and then plant them, the plant is dormant and it's not going to go ahead and say, oh, let me get those roots growing again, because it's already made its mind up, it's done its thing. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and take it out of the container, get the roots raked a little bit to encourage them to grow out, plant them in the garden, and keep them well watered. Now this year they probably have already been fertilized, so you can or you don't really have to fertilize them this fall. But next fall, when the leaves start turning colors and these are in full bloom, you want to go ahead and add a little bit of fertilizer. Fall is the perfect time to fertilize all of your trees, all of your shrubs, your lawn, and your herbaceous perennials, because the roots will go ahead and absorb the nutrients as they drift through the soil profile through the rains and irrigation. And then they can go ahead and take those nutrients and decide where they're going to put it. They kind of have like this large filing cabinet in their little roots, and they say, okay, I'll put this here for the roots for next year, I'll put this over here for the shoots for next year, I'll put this over here for the flowers for next year. And they get it all organized so when spring comes, they can go out like gangbusters. It's like a well-planned battle almost, but it's a battle for survival, so that's a good thing. Now the other thing with these guys, when they come up in the springtime, you want to go ahead and let them get to be about 6 inches high and then just do a soft pinch. So a soft pinch would be like I've got this little bud right here. Now this is a flower bud, so I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice it. But a soft pinch is just basically pinching it off just like that. What that does is encourages, again, that's that word, encourages this stem right here to say, wow, I don't have to grow straight. Every one of these little leaves can go ahead and branch out. So when it's 6 inches tall, you just pinch out the top little buds, and then all the side shoots will start to grow out. What that's going to do for you is going to give you so many more flowers. These guys were pinched at least twice. And look how many flowers they are. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to give you a more compact and sturdy plant, one that can handle breezes and maybe, well, not puppies running through because they're kind of brittle, but they can handle a lot more wind because they're kind of holding each other together, which is real nice. So, you know, if you just do that, that's one simple little task, you'll have something beautiful, which is really good. And then it'll give you green color all through the summer, and then come fall, it'll go ahead and start to color up. Now, why do they color in the fall instead of in the summertime? They have an inner clock, and the clock says, they're watching the sun. And when the sun is a little lower in the sky, instead of being high up in the sky like it is in high summer, I love that word, high summer, they will go ahead and start thinking, okay, we have more darkness, less light, time to have flowers. And they're perfect for the fall pollinators too, because they will go ahead and attract a lot of butterflies and other pollinators. So anyways, I think that if you start with your mums and you have some pansies, you will have a beautiful fall, and you can actually go into spring with absolutely gorgeous flowers. Now, I think time to smell the flowers, and then let's get on to some other fall chores. Oh, wow. You know, sometimes the neat thing about a garden is you have what they call volunteers. These are seeds that were left over from last year, and they kind of volunteered themselves into the garden. This is called celosia. This particular variety is a wheat celosia. The reason why it's called wheat celosia is it kind of looks like wheat. Where the seeds are down the very, very bottom, right in here. And I can go ahead and get a couple out real quick. There we go. And see all these little black seeds? Isn't that wild? It is so much fun to play with annuals because you can go ahead and sprinkle them all over the place. Ta-da! You're gonna have seeds for next year. Perfect. So with this one, I would go ahead and let it continue to bloom until the first really hard frost, and then just cut it down to the ground, because an annual's not coming back next year. The seeds will come back next year. But let's take a look at some of the beautiful herbaceous perennials. Oh, I love the smell of phlox. So this is a garden phlox, a perennial. This is black-eyed Susans. These little guys right down here are lanceleaf coreopsis, a native plant. These are peonies. These down here are sedums, and this is salvia. So all of these that I mentioned are different type of herbaceous perennials. That means that they're going to be nice right now, and then they're going to, as soon as it gets really, really cold, they're going to go ahead and die. But they're not going to die all the way, just down to the roots. So what you want to do with these guys is take your clippers and cut them to about 1 to 2 inches off the ground. You always want to leave a little bit of a stub so you know that there's something there, especially if you have at the last minute some extra fall bulbs that you say, oh, I forgot to plant these, let me go ahead and put them in. So whether it's the peony or the sedum, the salvia, anything, just go ahead and do that. Even the mums, you can go ahead and do that. And always leave about 1 inch so you can go ahead and say, oh, I won't plant anything on top of that. I know something's coming. Because perennials, they sometimes take a while to get started in the springtime, but once they get started, they grow like crazy. So these are fun. I love sedums. Let's go check out some more things. Oh, I love this. Okay, these are native New England asters. This is definitely a plant that blooms in the summertime. Now, there are some asters that can stay 2 feet tall. Very few of them do. This one obviously can get to be almost 5 feet tall. Look at this. Is it not gorgeous? They are such a pollinator attractor. We have butterflies here. We have honeybees. We have bumblebees and other little teeny itty bitty wasps that won't bother stinging any of us, but they just love these flowers. And once again, this is one you want to make sure you let it bloom until it stops blooming, and then go ahead after the last hard frost comes by and all the flowers and the leaves go, prune it down. But again, keep it only at least an inch of stem. The other thing is fall, after they go dormant like that, it's a good time to reevaluate and decide, this is huge. Should we go ahead and dig it up, or dig part of it up and spread the wealth, or share with a friend? There's always a good time to think about it. Right now, while it's in full bloom, invite your friends over. Don't you love this plant? Where in your garden would this fit? And then go ahead and say, well, when I dig it up, I'll go ahead and share some with you. And they should be happy about that. I know I would be. Ah, I love this plant. Okay, this is a Vitex, and it has really cool foliage. I'm going to print the foliage out. The foliage is what they call palmate, which means that this whole thing is a leaf, and they're all connected to this stem. This is the stem. So the reason why they're called palmate is you put your hand out like that, it kind of looks like a hand. This leaf here is called a leaflet. This is a leaflet. This is a leaflet. This one, and this one. So these are palmate flowers, or leaves I should say, and absolutely stunning purpley blue flowers. Now this one is, oh my goodness, about 6 or 7 feet tall, and the reason why it's thriving here is that this gets a lot of sun, but it gets really damp soil, and it just loves that. So if you have an area in your property where it's a little bit low and you need to have something that can handle the full sun but also the wetness, this is a good choice to have. And it would be also good in a rain garden. And what they've done, which I think is adorable, is they've paired this gorgeous Vitex with a beautyberry, which is right down here. I'm kind of like hugging both. So the beautyberry has little teeny tiny flowers in the summertime that turn out to these amazing amethyst colored foliage. Look at that, berries. Aren't they beautiful? So they almost shine. They're so beautiful. Again, this one gets water, so it continues to look really good. There are some gardens that I've seen after this long, hot, dry summer that the berries are all gone because it's gotten too dry. But this one, they're so beautiful. I want to share one more thing about fall that you can go ahead and take care of. Let me step out in here to the lawn. So the reason I want to talk to you about lawn is fall is the perfect time, again, to take care of your lawn. Not in the springtime. If you want to overseed your lawn or put a new lawn in, September, October, perfect time to do it. You want to do it before the leaves fall down, and you want to do it when the temperatures are a little cooler, especially in the evening. And that's what you get in the late part of September, especially in October. So what you want to do is you want to look through your lawn to see what kind of weeds do you have. Are they crabgrass weeds? Annual, no big deal. The best cure for crabgrass is to have a really good, thick, healthy lawn with really good long grass, because they will shadow and shade out that crabgrass. If crabgrass has an area to grow in the springtime, it needs that much sunlight, and then it'll grow like crazy. And if you've seen crabgrass, it doesn't grow straight up like grass does, like this. It grows like this. Like a crab, it takes over your lawn that way by shading out the other grass. So take a look at the grasses and the weeds. If the weeds are perennial, now is a good time to spot spray those perennial weeds, and you can go ahead and kill them, and then you can go ahead and take care of your lawn. The other thing you have to remind yourself is fall is the perfect time to fertilize your lawn too. You should get a soil test once every 3 or 4 years to see how much lime you need to bring the soil pH up a little higher. The Eastern Shore has real sandy soil, so it's more acidic here. But long grasses do much, much better when they're between a pH of 6.5 to 6.8. So they like to be a little bit more even. Middle of the ground is a 7 pH. pH is just a measurement of the acidity in the soil. The other thing you want to do is, if you've gone ahead and checked out the weeds after you've spot sprayed them, and you've gone ahead and done your soil test, you know how much nutrients you need. Adding nutrients, people say, oh, I don't bother fertilizing my lawn. Adding nutrients to your lawn, the right amount of nitrogen. If they need phosphorus, the right amount of phosphorus. If it needs potassium, the right amount of potassium, you'll have a stronger, healthier lawn, and it will be able to grow so much better that it'll actually outcompete a lot of those weeds. So it's important to go ahead and have a good lawn. The other thing the lawn does is that roots will grow deeper and actually more fibrous. So instead of having a skinny little 1 or 2 roots going down, it'll have like a whole bush full of roots underneath the soil, and they'll grow deep in the ground, and they will hold the soil. They'll help pull out all the, any pollutants, and they'll go ahead and filter them through so that they don't get into the water table. A healthy lawn is an amazing thing. The other thing to keep in mind is you can only fertilize until November the 15th. And after that, between November the 15th and March the 1st, you cannot add any more fertilizer, nitrogen or phosphorus. That is the new Maryland lawn law. So you want to keep all that in mind. Well, there you go. Fun things to do in October. You can go ahead and play in your garden. You can go ahead and play in your yard. You can go ahead and enjoy adding some annuals or some more perennials to your yard. Don't forget bulbs. And have a wonderful time in the garden. Thank you for having fun with me in the garden and right here on Pack 14.